The truth about Ozempic, what no one tells you. Imagine if I told you there was a drug that could help people lose 20, 30, even 50 pounds without spending hours in the gym. Sounds like a miracle, right? But what if I also told you that some people are ending up in hospital, others can't stop vomiting, and researchers are now asking serious questions about what happens after years of taking it? So, is Ozempic one of the greatest medical breakthroughs ever? Or are we only hearing half the story? The truth about Ozempic. Today we're putting all the hype aside. No celebrity gossip, no fear-mongering, just the actual science as we look at how Ozempic really works inside your body, why it causes such dramatic weight loss. The side effects almost nobody talks about, the long-term concerns researchers are watching closely, and whether the weight actually stays off. Because by the end of this video, you'll probably have a completely different opinion than when you clicked. Why is everyone talking about Ozempic? It feels like Ozempic appeared overnight. 1 minute hardly anyone had heard of it. The next, celebrities, influencers, your neighbour, even your GP is talking about it. But here's the strange part. Ozempic wasn't even designed to help people lose weight. It was originally developed to help people with type 2 diabetes manage their blood sugar. But then, doctors started noticing something unexpected. Patients weren't just controlling their diabetes, they were losing huge amounts of weight. Some people were dropping 10, 20, even 30 kilograms. And suddenly, pharmaceutical companies realized this wasn't just another diabetes medication. It could completely change the treatment of obesity. And today, millions of prescriptions later, Ozempic has become one of the most talked about drugs on Earth. But how can one tiny injection completely change the way your body thinks about food? What Ozempic actually does. To understand Ozempic, we need to meet a hormone called GLP-1, because every time you eat, your intestines release GLP-1, which is basically your body's natural message saying you're full, and you can stop eating now. But the problem is that message doesn't last very long. Ozempic copies this natural hormone, but instead of disappearing after a short time, it keeps working for almost an entire week, and it does this in 3 major ways. First, it tells your brain you're not hungry anymore. Second, it slows down how quickly your stomach empties, so food stays in your stomach much longer, meaning you stay full for longer too. And third, it helps your pancreas release insulin when it's needed, while also reducing the amount of sugar released by your liver, which is why it was originally created to help people with type 2 diabetes. Put all of those effects together, and many people naturally eat far fewer calories without constantly feeling hungry. And some people even say they completely forget to eat lunch, while others describe opening the fridge, looking inside, and simply closing it again, which if you've ever stood in front of the fridge eating cheese at midnight, feels almost supernatural. The weight loss. Clinical trials produced incredible results. Many people lost around 15% of their body weight. Some people lost even more. And that's far beyond what most traditional diets achieve, which is exactly why demand exploded. But here's something social media rarely explains. Ozempic isn't magically burning fat. The laws of biology haven't changed. Your body still loses weight because it's taking in fewer calories than it's using, and Ozempic simply makes eating much easier by reducing appetite, which for many people is life-changing. But if everything sounds this amazing, why are some people becoming seriously ill? The side effects. Here's where things become much more complicated, because the most common side effects include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, heartburn, and stomach pain. This happens because Ozempic slows your stomach down, and sometimes it slows it down a little too much, meaning food can sit there longer than it should. For many people, these side effects improve after a few weeks, but not everyone is that lucky. And doctors also discuss rarer but potentially more serious complications, such as inflammation of the pancreas, gallbladder disease, kidney problems caused by severe dehydration, and a condition called gastroparesis, where the stomach empties extremely slowly. These complications are uncommon, but they're one reason this medication should always be taken under medical supervision. The long-term effects. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting, because Ozempic hasn't been used for weight loss long enough for us to know every long-term consequence. We know it works, we know many people lose significant amounts of weight, but what happens after 5, 10, or 20 years? The honest answer is, we're still learning. One of the biggest concerns isn't actually fat, it's muscle. Because when people lose weight quickly, they don't just lose body fat, they often lose lean muscle tissue too. And muscle isn't just about looking toned. It protects your joints, supports your metabolism, improves balance, helps prevent falls as you get older, and even helps control blood sugar. So, without enough protein and resistance training, some people may lose far more muscle than they realize. Researchers are also paying close attention to bone health, because bone is living tissue that is constantly rebuilding itself, and rapid weight loss, eating too little, and losing muscle can all reduce the amount of healthy stress placed on your bones, which over time may contribute to lower bone density. It's important to be clear that current evidence does not show that Ozempic directly causes osteoporosis, but losing large amounts of weight without enough calcium, vitamin D, protein, and strength training may increase the risk of weaker bones over time, and for older adults, especially postmenopausal women who are already at greater risk, this is something doctors are watching very carefully. Because Ozempic suppresses appetite so effectively, some people simply aren't eating enough, and if you're consistently eating too little, you may struggle to get enough protein, iron, vitamin B12, calcium, or other nutrients your body relies on every single day, which means weight loss isn't automatically healthy if your body is slowly becoming undernourished. Researchers are also beginning to ask another fascinating question about how Ozempic changes our relationship with food, because for many people, finally feeling free from constant cravings is genuinely life-changing, but for others, food becomes something they almost forget about. And scientists are still studying what this might mean psychologically over the long term. What happens when you stop? And finally, the question everyone wants answered: what happens when you stop taking Ozempic? Unfortunately, for many people, the hunger comes back, and studies have shown that many people regain a significant amount of the weight they lost after stopping treatment, especially if long-term eating habits and exercise haven't changed. This makes sense because Ozempic was helping control appetite. So, once that help disappears, your body's natural hunger signals often return. And while that doesn't mean everyone regains all the weight, it does remind us that Ozempic isn't a permanent cure by itself. So is Ozempic good or bad? The truth is, neither answer tells the whole story, because for someone living with obesity or type 2 diabetes, especially when diet and exercise alone haven't worked, these medications can genuinely improve health, reduce the risk of serious disease, and even save lives. But for other people, the decision is much more complicated. Like almost every powerful medicine, Ozempic comes with real benefits and real risks, and perhaps the biggest lesson isn't that Ozempic is a miracle or that it's dangerous. It's that there are no shortcuts without trade-offs. Whether the answer is medication, nutrition, exercise, or a combination of all three, long-term health almost always depends on the habits that continue long after the excitement fades. Because our bodies are incredibly complex, and the truth is almost never as simple as a headline. If this video helped you understand Ozempic better, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed, because every week we explore the science behind health, nutrition, and the human body without the hype and without trying to sell you anything. And if there's another health topic you'd like us to investigate, leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.